Thank you, David, and thanks for the invitation to come back and speak with you guys. I'm Mary Shelton. I'm the Executive Director for the Opioid Abatement Council. And joining me today is also Ella Reding. Ella, would you like to say hello?
Hey guys, I'm Ella. I'm the project administrator for the Tennessee Opioid Abatement Council.
So we are here today to give you another quick overview of the Opioid Abatement Council and the responsibility of the council. Then we are going to review the expectations of the semi-annual report. And then we have what we hope is some good news.
Yes.
A 3-year rolling projection for the county payments. Okay, so I am going to talk a little bit about the council, and this is probably just a recap for some of you who have joined our past webinars. But the council upholds the responsibility to ensure the disbursements of these funds go toward funding programs, strategies, expenditures, and other actions designed to prevent and address the misuse and abuse of opioid products and treat or mitigate opioid use or related disorders or other effects of the opioid epidemic. So that was first found in Public Chapter 491, and that has now been placed into Tennessee law under Title 33, the Mental Health Law. And then carrying on with the responsibility, the opioid abatement funds can be spent for the following purposes: prospective opioid abatement and remediation, expenses incurred in administering and operating the Opioid Abatement Council, related expenses associated with administering, investing, and dispersing funds held in the abatement fund, and for supporting the staff of the Opioid Abatement Council. So let's pause right here for just a second. And I want to give a brief overview of the council. So there are 15 members of the Opioid Abatement Council, and our chair is Dr. Stephen Lloyd, and he has been the chair since our inception. We had our first meeting last July of 2022. And since then, we've been able to get out the $31.4 million, the first annual payment to the counties that went out to you guys in February and March of this year. We do have regular meetings. We meet at least quarterly, though this past year we've had a few additional meetings to help expedite our processes and expedite our programs. And at the end of the presentation, we will share with you a website. And if you haven't already, we encourage you to visit the Opioid Abatement Council website. We're posting information as soon as we are able to create it. There's also information and recordings of our past meetings. And just about all the information we're going to go over today is already posted on our website, so you can use that as a resource. So just a short plug for our website. All right, let's move on to the next slide. This breaks down the Opioid Abatement Trust Fund. When the dollars enter Tennessee, it splits 3 times. And there's 15% that goes to the general fund, 15% that comes directly to you guys as the subdivisions, and then 70% comes into the Opioid Abatement Trust Fund. Then that splits again, and the counties and subdivisions receive 35% of those funds. So the first 15% that you guys get, that does not go into the Opioid Abatement Trust Fund. So we are not speaking about that. We're not speaking about the money that comes directly from Brown Greer or the National Administrator. What we are going to be discussing today is that 35% that comes into the Opioid Abatement Trust Fund. And Ella will go into a little bit more detail as far as how that came to be as coming to you guys. But just wanted to make sure that off the bat, we had that delineation that there's money that's coming directly from the National Administrator, and then there are funds that are coming from the Opioid Abatement Trust Fund. And so this 35% right here, that's what we are going to discuss today. All right, so with that, I will turn it over to Ella.
So letter of agreement as you all know, all counties have already received their letter of agreement back in January and February. Just a quick highlight on the letter of agreement requirements are that the funds must be spent on opioid abatement and remediation purposes. All records shall be maintained in accordance with state law, and the county shall obligate all funds for specific purposes as consistent with this agreement within the initial 2-year time period of the 4-year time period. Now, each year, the counties will go through the same process of receiving the letter of agreement, signing the document before you receive your next annual county payments. So the semi-annual report. This is a requirement for all counties who signed the letter of agreement and received abatement funds from the Opioid Abatement Council. Now, the report will highlight the remediation strategies funded, number of people served, when funds were spent, and the total amount of funds spent per strategy. This report will be due biannually on September 30th and March 30th of each year. So we are approaching that time when you will need to be submitting the report to us. So the activities from the remediation list are sorted by the 6 strategies, which is primary prevention, harm reduction, treatment, recovery support, education and training, research, and evaluation of abatement strategy, efficacy. And then if you go to our opioid abatement website under our work tab, you can find this list of activities that are sorted out by these 6 strategies. This may help you fill out the report, semi-annual report, a little bit easier. So our semi-annual report will be through FormStack. It is required for each county to complete it, of course. And the data collection is for accountability to the community and to the public. So I know I've sent out, it was earlier this summer, I've sent out an email to everybody of what the semi-annual report will look like. So it should look somewhat familiar to each and every one of you all. So the first half is the requirements of information that you will need to be filling out. And then at the bottom, we do have optional questions. This allows us to give a little bit of feedback of how things are going. If you're satisfied with the communication from the Tennessee Opioid Abatement Council office, and what things that you would like to see or ideas, your counties on how they're using their funds or willing to share to other counties.
So, hey, Ella, let's take it back up from the top. Let's scroll back up and let them get an idea of the questions. So let's scroll down to the allocation. Okay. So there is the Opioid Abatement Council discussed this and decided that the counties had 2 years to allocate the funds and then 4 years to spend the funds. Mm-hmm. And so what we are wanting to know here is, have any of the funds been allocated, or have all of the funds been allocated, or do you have a proposed allocation for some or all of the funds? And that still needs to be approved by the county commission or a similar process, or none of the funds have been allocated. And that's perfectly okay. That is within the 2-year time frame that the Opioid Abatement Council has given the counties to allocate the funds. So that's the first question. And then
before you move on, just there have been a question in the chat about that as well, just saying who made the requirement that the funds be spent in 2 years. It's not spent in 2 years, it's make a determination of how to allocate.
That's right.
Is that going to happen on a rolling basis? Like if you receive funds 2 years from now, you will have 2 years to decide how to spend that? Okay.
Yeah, so, and we will work with you guys. I know it's going to be a lot of accounting. So let's maybe put our brains together, our heads together, and see if there is an easier way to track this. But yeah, as Ella said, there will be payments going out every year. So the 2 years began when the funds were received. So let's take one of these questions and answer yes. So as you can see, well, first off, as you can see, each one of these questions, they're broken down by the strategies: primary prevention, harm reduction, treatment. Can you scroll down just a little bit? I asked you to do something and then I changed my mind, sorry. Recovery support, education and training, and research and evaluation. So depending on how you answer the question, yes or no, you may get drop downs. So let's scroll back up to that first one where you answered yes. Did your county spend opioid abatement funds on primary prevention? If the answer is yes, then we're asking for the total dollar amount, the estimated number of people served by the funds spent on primary prevention, and the initial dates when the funds for primary prevention were spent. We understand that you maybe you spent $50,000 on primary prevention, but it was $20,000 in April and $50,000 in July. So, and that math may have not worked out, so I apologize for that. We want to know the initial date. Yes, we will get these slides to you guys after the meeting. All right, can we go back into the form stack? Somehow, I think we came out of it. So scroll down. So for each one of these questions, you're going to answer whether or not your county spent money for these strategies. This is not the allocation. The allocation question is above, and then this is the spending. And basically this tracks the information that is in the letter of agreement. So the letter of agreement spelled out all of these specific components. And then, as Ella mentioned, we have these optional questions that would help us, I hope, do our job better and help work with you guys in more of a collaborative manner. So I wanted to go over a little bit more of those details. So Ella, I'll turn it back over to you.
So where to find the remediation list? Our website is where you can find all of our information. So again, if you still need to look over the remediation list, please visit our website to look over that document. Again, for the semi-annual report, the activities from the remediation list are sorted out by the 6 strategies. I'm going to quickly pull it up just for you all to see what it looks like. So it's broken down. Each of the strategies are broken down into 6 categories. So please use this document to kind of help fill out the semi-annual report. Again, this is located on our website under our work. So the 3-year rolling projections. So the Opioid Abatement Council will update the projected payment annually and will publish a rolling 3-year projection document for planning purposes only. So the projections are assumed maximum payments and are subject to change. So these are not going to be a definite amount your counties are going to be receiving. The Opioid Abatement Council, we do not have any control of the timing or the final funding of amounts received. So the data which informs the county allocation that we use for this year, they are updated every 4 years by the Tennessee Department of Health. So the 3 things that, the 3 points that we get the data from the Department of Health is the county level data for fatal and non-fatal overdose and the volumes of prescription opioid sales. And the Opioid Abatement Council calculates the projections using the statutorily prescribed 35% of the opioid abatement trust fund, and then it's multiplied by the county allocation percentage. So the 3-year rolling projections, these projections, again, like what Mary said, will be posted on our website shortly after this meeting. So if you have not had the chance to look for your county, this will be on our website. And just to reiterate, these are not final numbers. These are our projections of what we are looking for the next 3 years. And just to quickly highlight again, the data which the Tennessee Department of Health supplies for the county allocation percentages are based on the county level data for fatal and non-fatal overdose. And again, the volumes of prescription opioid sales. So these will be updated every 4 years, and we will be responsible to make sure our county allocation percentages are also updated. So again, disbursement schedule. We are for 2024 looking to target mid-February to initiate payments through Edison. So I will be in contact with each of the counties probably between December and January to get the letter of agreement sent out to you, get that signature back, and just to make sure all the information is still correct and accurate. So that will start happening between December and January of next year. And the council plans to disperse funds to all the counties on annual basis during the first quarter of each calendar year. And again, the payments will continue for the next 17 years. And I think, Mary, we're looking at what, 1 billion so far for the next 17 years?
Yeah,
So-
that's the total, and that's not all for the counties. That's what's coming into the opioid abatement trust fund. Let's see here, just in case folks wanted to see it again, Ella, will you go back to the first slide, and we'll spend just a couple of minutes on this, and we will post this on our website directly after this meeting. But again, I just wanted to highlight the multiple disclaimers. I don't know if y'all have been following the news, but you know, the Supreme Court issued an injunction with the Purdue settlement. And so things like that are going to happen that are definitely, as you know, out of our control. That's all at the national level, at the judicial level. And even our attorney general can't control what money it is that we receive, when we receive it, et cetera, et cetera. So we used the best data we had, the best information we had from the Attorney General's office, along with the information that the Department of Health gives us. And we were able to calculate these. So to give you an idea, that's all this is give you an idea. We heard from multiple counties that it would be helpful for planning purposes. But we will update this, as Ella said, on an annual basis. Let's go to the next slide so the third of counties can see their projections. But we'll have this posted, and when David posts these slides on the website, we'll make sure that the link to these projections are also included as well. I haven't seen any
Gary?
questions. Yeah, go ahead, David.
I had a quick question, and I apologize if you covered this. The drop from 24 to 25, is that because some of the funds are front loaded?
Yes, some of the funds were front loaded. I'm definitely not an expert on the money that is coming in, but there were some balloon payments or some, you know, larger payments that came in initially. Some of the settlements pay over a certain amount of time, others pay over a longer period of time. And even as we go through these next 17 years, there's a little bit of a balloon in the middle, and then it comes back down. And those were all, you know, how they negotiated the settlement payment. So that was between the, you know, whichever law system, judicial system was working it, and then also the companies. And then, you know, we've also heard about Mallinckrodt, and they're trying to not send their next payment. So this might be helpful to pay attention to the news, because that will definitely affect these payments. What other questions might they be? All right, this is how to get in touch with us. Opioid.abatement@tn.gov, and here is our website, tn.gov/OAC, or you can just put in Google Tennessee Opioid Abatement Council, and our website should pop up pretty close to the top.
One thing I'll mention real quick, it looks like we had a number of guests I didn't recognize. I think that's great, from some providers or from some nonprofits that might be working with the counties. So they may have forwarded the invite on to get those folks on air. If you don't regularly receive updates from our association, Tennessee County Services Association, but you were a part of this, we're glad to have you here. Just if we send out future updates or the link to the slides or the recording, things like that, and we don't normally send you emails, maybe if you can post your email address in the chat, we'll try to capture it that way and be able to make sure that you're included in updates that go out. So there was a question that popped up, say, how is the 65% going to be used by the Opioid Abatement Council, the part that doesn't come to counties?
Sure. So that's designated to the community. And we currently, if you go to the opioid abatement website, you will see an announcement of funding posted. And we are going to be opening it up for grant applications on September 1. And the application portal will be open for 5 weeks. And people from the community in Tennessee can submit their application. So that's the current plan, is for funding grant applications. They have to play by the same rules that the counties are playing by. It has to be projects or programs that are found on the remediation list.
Just from some meetings that I've been at, I think I remember hearing this before. Since the counties are getting some direct funding, they're not prohibited from applying for additional funding out of the 65%. But I think the council was saying we're probably going to prioritize getting that to other providers, since the counties already have one direct line of funding. Would that be accurate? Or
I think that's a fair statement. They are allowed, and yes, they are allowed to submit an application. Yes.
we can hang on for just a second, see if there's any other questions. Or like I said, I'll keep the chat open for a little while if you want to get updates. We do have another question. It's scrolled up. Let me see. Can any of the funds be used by the counties to refund money that was used for investigations and deaths? Probably mostly around autopsies.
So 2 parts to this question. The opioid abatement dollars can only be spent on prospective programs. So programs that are in the future. It cannot be spent on any programs that occurred in the past. And I can speak to the deaths and autopsies because I've heard a representative from the Attorney General's office address this, and that answer was no. That's not coming from the opioid abatement office, that's coming from the Tennessee Attorney General's office, and that answer was no. But it has to be spent on prospective, future programs and services.
Yeah, and I would add, I think, so the funds that you receive directly from the national administrator that don't come with as many strings attached to them, I think it's possible some of those funds could be used to reimburse the county for past expenses. But yeah, that's my understanding as well. On the funds flowing through the abatement council are there to be used to prevent addiction and deaths. And so, yeah, it has to be spent on prevention looking forward as opposed to investigating past incidences.
So I'm seeing several questions about what can the money be spent on. So there are some specific guidelines that I have been given from the Opioid Abatement Council and the attorneys that review the law and my role, and I am not allowed to consult on what the opioid abatement funds can be spent on. If this question is related to the community grants through the announcement of funding, we have posted a frequently asked questions on our webpage under our work, under community grants. So you can refer to that FAQ document for questions related to the community grants. But as far as what the counties can spend their funds on, besides the information I just gave you about autopsies and it must be spent on programs and services in the future, I'm pretty much prohibited from consulting.
I would say then these resources would, I think, are still out on your website, or I know they're on the AG's website. There is that 12-page document that goes through some so there's the 6 categories of expenditures, and then that document fills that in even further with some specific examples of the types of things under that. It would be useful to take a look at that. Some of these things that are being asked about, I think, definitely appear on that list. I'm not under the
Yeah.
same restrictions that Mary is, so I can say, yeah, certainly like a residential treatment facility for people dealing with opioid abatement or opioid use issues would certainly fall under some of those categories.
Yes, and we have a link to that document on our website as well. Again, you could Google Tennessee Attorney General opioid abatement, and that page that David's referring to will pop up.
All right, well, I'm not seeing any other additional questions. And I said, we've got a number of, we'll save your email addresses if you pop those up in the meeting chat, and try to make sure that you get information about when the recording from this session is posted. It'll probably be a day or two. It takes us a little while to download the video and edit that, but we'll get that and make it available to you shortly. Appreciate everybody joining us, and Mary and Ella, thank you for your information presentation today. Do you have something else to add?
Nope, all good. Thank you so much. We appreciate the invitation.